People are always asking me how every bike I review and ride compares to specific other bikes. Sometimes I feel like these comparisons should be obvious. To me, the difference between a Honda CRF 450 RL and a Honda CB 500X is night and day, but someone new to this world or who hasn't spent a lot of time researching and riding a bunch of dual sport and adventure bikes might see that 450 and 500 are pretty close together, so those bikes might be kind of similar. All dual sport and adventure bikes can, by design, be ridden both on and off the pavement, but some are much better at one than the other. I'll often use a number like 70-30 or 50-50 to describe where I think a bike fits in the on-off-road spectrum, and I find myself doing that so much these days that it just made sense for me to sit down and actually create some terminology that allows me to quickly convey where an ADV or a dual sport bike might fit. I'm not trying to be the arbiter of ADV terminology, and these are just my personal opinions, but hopefully these categories can help us shorthand future conversations about what certain adventure and dual sport bikes are good at, best at, and what they're intended to do. So with that in mind, here are my 5 categories of ADV and dual sport bikes, starting with streetiest and working our way to the dirtiest, which will be obvious when you hear the term. So mostly street, dirty street, 50-50, streety dirt, and mostly dirt. I've created a spreadsheet just with examples of which bikes fit into each category and sort of defining each category, at least as the way it works in my head. But before we jump in, a few caveats. One, again, just my opinion based on my experience with these bikes and the apparent design philosophy behind each one, based on things like ground clearance and suspension travel and weight and all of that. This is my attempt to find the best fit for each bike, though some bikes lean one way or the other while still fulfilling the same basic purpose. An example is the KTM 890 and the 690 are in the same category, but obviously the 890 is a little streetier and the 690 is a little dirtier. The intent here is to describe the best, easiest use case for each bike. Technically, someone's going to come in with this, so I'm just going to throw it out again. Technically, every motorcycle can do almost anything. Matt Spears might be able to ride a Goldwing in Moab or a Panigale in the snow, but it's not the easiest or most comfortable way to do either one of those things, and neither of those bikes was designed to do that. To put it another way, Michael Jordan might be able to dunk in Crocs, but that doesn't make them good basketball shoes. Basically, I could do caveats all day, but you're going to disagree with me, and that's fine. No bike fits perfectly into any category, and yada, 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 yada. Just leave your disagreements in the comments. It's good engagement, and I appreciate it. So let's take a look at the list. Just going from left to right, this is sort of how I organized it. So on the far left is 100% road and street bikes, which are intended to be used 100% on the pavement for road trips. Every street bike and every cruiser, basically everything that isn't a dual sport, an ADV or a dirt bike fits into that category. And then our first category of ADV and dual sport bikes is mostly street. And to me, this is 90% street, 10% dirt, almost entirely pavement riding with some hard pack or gravel roads. Your highway comfort is a priority with minor concessions for some basic off-road ability, and I'm going to be honest, I did not come up with many bikes in this category. A lot of things are in the next 2 categories, but just as an example, I had a Versus 650. I would say it fits in this category. It's a street bike. It's a tall touring bike, but you can kind of take it off-road. And the Multistrada I would put in this category just because it is fine off-road, but 19-inch front, often cast wheels, things like that. That's the only 2 bikes I have off the top of my head, or at least that I could come up with in the mostly street category. Now the dirty street category is next, and that is 70% street riding, 30% dirt. So these bikes are designed to do the vast majority of your riding on the pavement. You're riding long distances on the road to get to some less technical off-road riding. When you leave the pavement, you're doing mostly gravel and hard-packed roads with the occasional more technical or low traction section, but it's not the kind of thing you're seeking out on these bikes. You just get through it. Highway comfort is more important with these than off-road capability. A longer list here in the dirty street category. I'm just going to run them down real quick. Dirty street bikes. Versus X300, the BMW 1250, 1200, 1300 GS. People are going to disagree with me there, but that's primarily based on the weight. KTM 1290 Adventure, the Honda Transalp 750, the Honda CB 500X and NX 500, the Ibex 800, the 2024 and earlier KTM 390 Adventures, and the 2025 and up KTM 390 Adventure X, which I've never actually seen in person. Tiger 1200, the old Tiger 800, the Pan America, the Tenere 1200, which is a 600-pound motorcycle, the Honda Africa Twin, Suzuki V-Strom, all versions, the BMW 750, 850 GS, the BMW 310 GS, and there are probably a bunch more that I've missed here, but that is what I would call a dirty street bike. So if you want to ride on the road and know that you can get to a cool camping spot up a gravel road, those are the bikes for you. In the middle of the list is the 50-50 category. It doesn't even have a name because it's literally 50-50. These bikes are for the riders who want to do an equal amount of dirt and street. These bikes are not as good as a dirt bike or a street bike, obviously, but they are the best balance between on and off-road riding and capability. These bikes are great for when you have a long road ride to an off-road riding destination, say a BDR in another state. Off-road capability and highway comfort are both priorities, but again, jack of all trades, master of none. So you're going to get more capability on the street or the road on either end of the spectrum. And bikes that I think fall into this 50-50 category, KTM 890 Adventure, the Tiger 900, the Tenere 700, the DR650, the new BMW 900 GS, the Honda CRF 300L Rally, which some of you may argue belongs in a category over, but I think it's a good balance of the two, having owned one for a few years now. 790 Adventure, the Touareg 660, the KLR 650, KTM 690, the Ibex 450, the new 2025 and up KTM 390 Adventure R, the Himalayan 450, not the 411, the XR 650L, and the Ducati Desert X. So continuing to move right, let's talk about bikes that I think are 30% street, 70% dirt, or as I like to call them, streety dirt bikes. These bikes are best at riding mostly off pavement. So if you have a short road ride to get to your off-road riding area, and or you're trailering to your off-road riding areas near camp or other destinations where you need a street legal bike, where you're connecting trails, things like that, or you are willing to suffer through uncomfortable long highway rides for the off-road benefits once you get where you're going, these are bikes that I think best fit into that streety dirt category. And no shocker here, it's mostly dual sports. So the Honda CRF 300L non-rally, KLX 300, the DRZ 400, the new DRZ 4S, the KLX 230, KTM 390 Enduro R I think fits in this category, the convey 800, WR 250R, a myriad of other dual sports that are not made new anymore, but pretty much every bike that looks like a dirt bike has a small tank but can go on the street, an enduro bike some would say, fits into this category. And on the far right of the list are bikes that are designed for 10% street, 90% dirt. This is the mostly dirt category. These bikes are best at entirely off pavement riding with an occasional need for on-road riding. If for you, on-road riding is a means to an end because you're connecting trails, or you want the maximum off-road capability with no regard to on-road comfort, or you're trailering to far off destinations in the middle of nowhere instead of riding there for rallies, whatever, these bikes are probably good for you, the mostly off-road, mostly dirt bikes. These are basically all dirt bikes with lights and signals. KTM 500 EXCF, KTM 350 EXCF, Honda CRF 450L and 450RL, Husky 501, all the betas, 390, 430, 500, the convey 450, and the KTM Husky Gas 350 EXCFs. They have different names, but it's the same bike. All fit into this 90-10, mostly dirt category. And then on the far right of this list, which is not even a category we're talking about, is 100% dirt, and that is you're not street legal off-road only bikes. Yes, in some states you can plate dirt bikes, but I'm talking about from the factory. And here in Oregon, we can't plate dirt bikes, so if it doesn't come street legal, it doesn't count. But if you live in a state where you can just slap signals on a dirt bike, it would go in this 90-10 /100% category. So if you look at the list, look at the spreadsheet, the first thing I notice is that it forms an almost perfect bell curve. Interesting how that works, right? Regression to the mean. The vast majority of ADV and dual sport bikes fall somewhere in the middle because the whole intent is that you can do both on them. I haven't included every dual sport and adventure bike ever because it would take too long and I haven't ridden them all, but I think you can extrapolate where a bike belongs based on the other bikes on the list. As an example, the XT225 isn't on there because they don't make it anymore. It was replaced with the XT250 though, so logic would then dictate that the XT225 goes where the XT250 is, that is that 30 street, 70 dirt, streety dirt bike category. My intent here is to create a list that is useful in our future discussions and can help you make your own bike choices. You could start with the kind of riding you want to do and then work your way down the list to help that narrow down which bikes you should be looking at. If you want to dabble in gravel but mostly crush highway miles, you are probably a dirty street rider. But if you want to get to the coolest places but have to ride some distance to get to the cool off-road riding areas, well then you might want to start with the streety dirt category. What bikes have I forgotten and where do they fall in your opinion? Let us know in the comments. Before I go, affiliate sales is a huge part of what enables me to do this job full-time and to continue creating this content. If I can ask you a small favor, it would mean the world to me if you would consider using my affiliate links to Rocky Mountain, Amazon, Revzilla, Moscow Moto, Moto Camp Nerd, and the other sites and manufacturers listed in the description and in a pinned comment. All you have to do is click the link once and I get credit for anything you buy over the next 2 weeks in most cases. You don't need a specific link for each thing. Just go to the site, do your shopping, and I will get credit. You pay the same amount, I get a small commission, and that helps me keep my family fed and pay my daughter's college tuition, and I sincerely very much appreciate all of you who have done and continue to do that. And also, you know, if you want to do something quick and easy before you go, maybe hit the like button if you're still here. That really helps with video visibility and helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!